could do, all I could do was smile. Life started keeping me, getting me down. All I could do was smile. Well, I dusted off, guess I'll get back up. It was worth the fall when the times got tough. There's a risk involved, everything ain't cost. I'll make it through, I'll make it through somehow. Weathered and worn, ever dreaming so wild. All I could do was smile. Well, if you never leave, then your heart won't know. So you take the chance, so you just let go, and you get knocked down, but that's how you grow. All I could do was smile. All I could do was smile. All I could do was smile. There'd be tears in my eyes. All I could do was smile. But I'll make it through. I'll make it through. I'll make it through. I'll make it through somehow. All I could do was smile, counting on you, counting on you to shine. Your treasures feel torn, tangled, twisted, and twined. All I could do was smile. All I could do was, all I could do was, all I could do was, all I could do was smile. You know what I'm talking about then. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes that's all you can do, and you're going to see why here in a second now. I always like to begin by taking a few breaths together as a way for us to bring our attention to the interconnectivity we share as human beings in these bodies, just simply by breathing. So, all together, just lightly bringing our attention to a breath in, breathing joy, and slowly, lightly releasing out joy. And breathing in joy, feeling it all the way to your toes. And releasing out into this room, lifting every person, joy. And breathing in joy for the last time here consciously in this round. And releasing out joy. Releasing everyone in this world, just lifting them and releasing them from their worries in joy. I am not a historian or a philosopher. I am a poet, an artist, and a musician. And you might think the ideas that I'm about to express seem radical in the face of the pain we as people of color experience, and the pain and the trauma we carry within our lineage. You might even call me a fool for believing in the beauty that I see possible for this world. But since I have been invited to open up to you, here you go. You see, about this time last year, I was in the middle of mixing my new record. I was watching the protest. I was glued to the news as we learned to navigate the coronavirus and this global pandemic. And I was grieving the loss of Representative John Lewis. And in my mind, I saw the picture of this older Black woman sitting near the steps of a sharecropping house on the porch. And it seemed that she might be somewhere deep, hot, and dusty down in Mississippi. And it also seemed that maybe she had been a slave, just out of slavery, and maybe she had known the hard times for real. And she sat on that porch, and she was in this beat-up rocking chair, and she was watching her grandchildren run around a no-grass, muddy yard wearing dirty rags with tears rolling down her cheeks. And then she began to smile, because she had done everything that she could do. As a slave, she had lived on the front lines. She had fought for freedom, and she had tried, you see. And in that moment, all she could do was smile. And in that smile, there was some joy and there was some happiness that just could not be taken from her, no matter what anybody ever did. They could take everything, but they could not take her smile. Through the setbacks, the brutal beatings, the hosing down, the constant and continuously hostile climate of defeat that she knew her grandchildren would face, and their children, and their children, and their children, and their children's children. All she could do was smile. Because you see, she knew a secret. And that secret was a secret superpower of joy. So once again, breathing in joy and slowly releasing out joy. And it is okay if you allow yourself to gently smile. When we reflect on the visible world, the reality of suffering surrounds us every day. Whether it be our personal suffering or the suffering of others, somewhere at every moment, there lives a tragedy. There lives poverty, there lives sickness, heartbreak, racism, hatred, injustice, and loss. Collectively, over the last year of our lives, we have seen some of the deepest and darkest wounds of our nation and across the planet come to the forefront, and the veil has been lifted. And those wounds are wounds that are meant to be healed. From George Floyd saying that I can't breathe, to the coronavirus putting people on ventilators all across the world, struggling to breathe, it's clear that our attention needs to be focused on bringing our awareness back to just a simple thing, and that is our breath. So together, we're just going to breathe in joy and slowly release out joy. In watching the news and listening to talks, respectfully, I've heard many of our leaders speak about the need to heal the traumas of our past. And currently, there are movements everywhere focused on educating people about the systemic challenges we as people of color face, the brutal injustices and the horrors of over 400 years of slavery in our nation. It is a much-needed narrative, and it is a narrative that leaders from Harriet Tubman to Dr. King have told from the lowest underground to the highest mountaintop. It is a narrative that people have screamed and continue to scream until our voices feel lost, hoarse, sore, and can place no demands. Yes, once again, we have the microphone. We have an opportunity to educate and to grow. And so, is there not a need to tell a story of hope and of joy? Or shall we solely focus on the traumas and the dramas? When we turn on the news or a TV program to be entertained, we often thrive on the violence, the pain, and the fear of different scenes and stories. And I believe there was a time when we needed to be guided by these survival instincts, these barbaric instincts, and an animalistic nature. As the first humans, we needed to be on guard against predators and tribes that might try to bring us harm. But today in our nation, we are living in a sliver of time that might allow us to begin to relate to each other and the world around us on gentler and kinder terms. This time is a time that was given to us by our ancestors' blood, their pain, and their sacrifices. It is a time that they gave as a transformatively powerful window of time for us to learn to rewrite the narrative for the generations to come. And the question is, when and how do we begin to rewrite that narrative? When do we begin to live in the present moment, calling forth those dreams that our ancestors fought and died for, those dreams that they always wished for us to have? When do we begin to claim the joy and the fortune of our own happiness? One of my favorite writers, Toni Morrison, she said, "You want to fly, you got to give up the thing that weighs you down." Representative John Lewis said, "You have to have the ability to take what people did and how they did it and forgive them and move on." So, why is it important for us to begin to rewrite a new narrative of hope and positivity? I know there is a vulnerability to taking the traumas and the pain and the setbacks of our past and choosing to elevate our minds to a place of a new mindset of positivity and joy. I also know that everything we see in this world was first a thought. There is a magic to an elevated mindset. Just as an alchemist can transform any old metal into gold, so we can transform our traumas into our strengths. Joy is a choice. Positivity is a choice. Joy is a practice. And positivity is a practice. So, all together, if you practice with me, breathing in joy and releasing out joy. Those who are not conscious or familiar with the act of living joyfully often can look at it from the outside and see it as just this happy or easy thing to do. But to witness the daily injustices of laws that systemically work to the detriment of people of color and to shift our gaze forward by choosing a path of radical joy is one of the most fierce and dangerous risks we can ever take. It is to live in a mindset of a dream, similar to Dr. King's dream. It is to live in a mindset of the change we wish to see. As Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see. And it is to live in a world of wonder and imagination, all the while being inundated with the daily societal oppression. Yes, there is a magic to mindset. And it is moving from the idea that we shall overcome to truly claiming and speaking into the being the idea that we have now overcome. It is calling it forth and making that our present moment. So how do we transform the pain of this present moment? Well, when we look at the sky on a cloudy day, there's gray clouds and it's very blurry, and we might be deep in the shadows of our life. But we know that somewhere up there above the clouds, the sun and the stars are still shining. And whenever we reach the darkness of night, and this can be the darkest time of our life, we know that the sun is starting to rise somewhere on the other side of the planet. It has been said that we create our own reality based on the way our mind is focused. There is a magic to an elevated mindset. In telling our stories, in our narratives, in our lectures, in our songs, if we choose to continue only focusing on pain, then I have to ask, are we recreating the same cycles of history again and again? How can we utilize our inner joy to own a new narrative and to begin to mold a brighter future? The resilience that is found in mindful living is something that can never be taken from us, no matter what obstacles we might face in our lives. No one can take it. Toni Morrison, like I said, favorite writer. She said, freeing yourself is one thing, But claiming ownership of that freed self was another. Today is the day that we claim ownership of that freed self through the practice of joy. Now is the time. To be joyful in this world of darkness, yes, it carries substantial risk. It requires being vulnerable. But I believe that after the darkness that we have endured, it is beyond time for us to give ourselves a chance to focus on the light. I want to ask the question of white America. In the way of highlighting our writers, our most popular Black writers, they are writers who have written about our pain. And in our films, most of our films, aside from Black Panther, which I freaking loved, because it showed us in a light, most of our films are highlighting the trauma. And so, are you ready to celebrate Black joy? And I want to ask the question of people of color. Are you ready to fucking shine and live in Black joy and celebrate your life? We have a heavy past, but we also have a choice of today choosing a new narrative for our children and their children and their children and their children's children. I'm sorry I cussed. I got a cussing problem, man. I'm a total hippie. I'm all about all the peace and love, but I love cussing. Well, I also want to ask if we are ready for individual healing, for communal healing, and for familial healing. And if we are, then if we just focus on the four walls of our home or this inside body, and we trust that our neighbor has that same focused intention and that same focused intention in a very small sphere upon very small sphere upon very small sphere, all throughout the planet, then we will begin to see an elevated earth. It is time. Well, I know it's hard, and it can be hard for us to soften into our joy. But it's okay to realize that the revolution can be joyful. The revolution can be mindful. The revolution can be multiracial, multigender, multiclass. We are living in a very fortunate time. We're living in a very unique time where we can ask these tough questions. We can breathe together and we can ask these questions because our ancestors carved this time for us to do it. And we can also collectively have a desire to actualize substantial change as we begin to sculpt a more egalitarian society. I believe in us. Representative John Lewis said, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America." I have faith that our community can do what is necessary to grow. But with the third charge there of redeeming the soul of America, I kind of feel like we haven't yet done that. And I believe that redemption is not a return to the past glory, but it is to claim the promise of a very, very new reality. A reality where we all have activated our superpower of joy. In closing, I have a poem for you. Let's see if it goes. And I illustrated all the poems in my book, and this is one of the illustrations of an earth goddess. She is down on her knees, and she's planting seeds. Because we all come to earth with a gift. Everyone has one. But as we get older, the world tells us, no, we don't need your color. We don't need your gift. We don't need red, pink. We already got that. This is earth. But that's not true. And the earth gets out of balance when your shade of blue, black, yellow, red, or green isn't shining. You have to believe and plant those seeds. And we have to leave the earth better than we found it. So that's what she's doing. She says, I came to bask in the sun, to see my mother smile, to dream, see manifested. But while I'm here, and thus so far invested, I guess I'll roll up my sleeves and kneel down on my knees, planting flowers and seeds, so earth will know that I have blessed it. Thank you.